Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 6 of our WWF Invasion 2001 save in TEW9. This is SmackDown for May 15th, 2001. Getting closer and closer to Judgment Day, our first pay-per-view in the series. Hope you guys continue to enjoy what we've had going thus far, and appreciate all the great feedback and such. And like I said, I am recording quite a few episodes in advance so we can stay consistent. So if I don't directly address some of your maybe feedback on the previous episode, I'll do it in the comments versus the video. But let's jump into SmackDown as we do start things off, and we immediately are backstage, and it is Vince McMahon who is there, and we see Stone Cold Steve Austin arrive, and Austin arrives and is Vince McMahon by himself. There is no Eric Bischoff on SmackDown, and that's the first thing Austin asks him. Austin's looking around in the locker room here, and he's asking Vince, where is Eric Bischoff? Because Austin, is trying to see if maybe Bischoff's in the bathroom. Is he, what's he doing? Is he around somewhere? And Vince says, Steve, Eric is not here tonight. He's handling the business that we talked about last week, and things will take care of themselves with that. So he's not here. Steve, what can I do for you tonight? I can tell you're a little bit rattled. You're looking around for Eric Bischoff. What can I do to ease your concerns here tonight? He's not here. And Steve just continues to look around here as though he's wondering if Bischoff is standing around somewhere behind a closed door or something like that. And so the paranoia continues with Austin a little bit. And he just says, you know what, Vince? As your WWF champion, there's a lot we need to talk about that's happened over this past week that we hadn't got to because you've been dealing with Eric Bischoff. And Vince just says, okay, Steve, let's do that. Tonight is about you and me. I'm focused on you, Steve Austin, my WWF champion. And so they go to sit down, and Austin says, hang on a second. Austin walks up and gives Vince McMahon another hug. And then they go to sit down. And before they can start talking, here comes Kurt Angle. Because Angle makes his way in, and Angle is pissed off because we know what happened with Rikishi. Rikishi makes his return, comes after Angle, almost gives our Olympic hero the stink face. Didn't happen. Angle comes in on a tear, and Austin just looks at Angle and says, Kurt, get the hell out of here. I'm talking to Vince McMahon. And Vince just says, Kurt, tonight is about Steve. I'm going to need you to leave. We'll talk later. We'll worry about everything with Rikishi a little bit later on. But for the time being, I need you to leave. I've got to talk to Steve about some things. So Angle is frustrated. He walks out. And so that's how we get things started here. Perhaps a bit of an interesting talking session with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin here tonight. We'll see what all they get to on SmackDown 93 to open things up. Then we go to the ring for our action to kick things off. But, of course, we have something to note here because it is Jim Ross, and we see Taz with Jim Ross here. So Taz is replacing Paul Heyman on commentary because of what we saw on Raw. Heyman throws his headset in disgust and walked out through the crowd, and Heyman is not here tonight. And so JR says Taz is replacing Paul Heyman. We all know what happened on Raw is War. And Taz just says, you know what, JR? I can understand the frustration with Paul. I'm out here to do my job, but I'm not going to lie and sit here and say I don't understand why Paul Heyman did what he did on Raw. I'm just going to say that up front. So JR just says, well, Taz, there's a lot of people asking questions around here about what's going on with Eric Bischoff, why he's here. Vince McMahon addressed it last week, said it had something to do with he and Bischoff forming this unholy alliance to try to take back WCW from Shane McMahon. We don't know what all is going on, but Paul Heyman is not here, and quite frankly, Taz, no one's heard from him since last week, or since, on Raw. So that's kind of how we're playing it up here. So Taz is going to replace Paul Heyman on commentary. 45 for this segment. Again, not a great rating, but we needed it to tell the story. Okay, match-wise, we start off with the APA getting the win over the Radicals. It is Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, as it's Bradshaw getting the win over Saturn here with a lariat. Cooled the crowd off a little bit, but that's okay because, there is something here that will serve its purpose also on this show a little bit later. But the APA get the win. Not much else to note just yet on this 45 here for this one. All right. Now we go backstage, and we are getting a little bit of the conversation with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. And, Austin's talking about a couple of different things. Austin brings up the Triple H injury. And he's like, Vince, we moved straight past Triple H's injury. And I know you said it wasn't my fault, but I hear everybody talking around here blaming me for Triple H getting hurt. All I was trying to do was interfere to help my friend retain the Intercontinental Championship. I can't help that Eric Bischoff was here and he caused the distraction. And Austin is kind of ranting a little bit. Vince is like, Steve, calm down. Eric did not cause the distraction. He was not at ringside and all this. You've got to calm down. And Vince just says, you did not cost Triple H his championship, Steve. You did not cost him a significant leg injury. It was not your fault. It's okay. And so they're going through that part. So they're talking about the Triple H thing, which, of course, happened a week ago. And so in comes William Regal. And Regal comes in, and Vince immediately pops up. Because why? Well, Vince is pissed off at William Regal because he wanted him to finish off The Undertaker on Raw. And as we saw, that did not work out very well. Vince says to Regal here, I told you to get your best man, and you chose yourself, and you did not get the job done against The Undertaker. Of course you weren't going to pick Steve. Steve was still recovering from the chokeslam from The Undertaker, sent him straight through the announce table, and you couldn't get the job done to get revenge for our WWF champion right here, Stone Cold Steve Austin. You didn't pick Kurt Angle because Kurt Angle was dealing with Rikishi. So you decided the best man for the job was you, William Regal, Commissioner William Regal. You asked me, is my job in jeopardy? Well, it may be here soon if you don't fix what you messed up by not being able to deliver what I asked for with The Undertaker. And Regal is he's taking the sort of verbal beating here. And Regal just says, Mr. McMahon, I knew you would be upset, but I come to you with a solution. I know how to fix this. And you see Austin kind of looking intently at Regal, and Regal gets up in Vince's ear and whispers something, and Vince's mood kind of changes from just being angry to, well. Now that is a good idea. I'll let you tell everyone about how we're going to handle this problem with The Undertaker and Kane here tonight. So Regal has an idea, and we'll see what that's going to mean here a little bit later. So 77 here for this one. All right, now we get a bit of an interesting segment here, as it is Kurt Angle, who we know left because he was kicked out by Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. They didn't want him interfering in their conversation here tonight. And so it is Kurt Angle who walks up, and there is Edge and Christian, his old friends here. And, Edge and Christian are like, Kurt, where have you been? And Angle's just like, guys, you wouldn't even believe everything that's happened to me. And they're like, we know, Kurt. We've seen it. We know what happened to you. And he's like, oh, okay, well, there's a lot going on. I need your guys' help. And Angle's just, asking Edge and Christian about helping him with Rikishi. And Edge is like, Kurt, we're here to help you and all this other stuff. And Angle's talking about Kane and all these things. And, then Edge is like, well, Kurt, we talked about all this, but what do you think about Eric Bischoff? Why is Eric Bischoff here? And Angle just says, don't get me started on Eric. I think he's a good guy because I was showing him my Olympic gold medals and he seemed to like him a lot. So the next time Eric is here, and then, Angle goes to continue, and here comes Eddie Guerrero. So Eddie comes in, tell Angle's maybe changed his tune a little bit on Bischoff because of how Bischoff responded to him showing him the gold medal. So Eddie makes his way into this conversation, and Edge and Christian are like, Eddie, we're glad you found us. We were going to have a discussion here. We all have a common goal, and we all want to take care of the Hardy Boys. You, Eddie, have the European Championship right there, so Eddie still is kind of flaunting the European title around here, even though we know he's not the champion. And so they are sort of, having a conversation here about making a pact to take out the Hardy Boys. So that's kind of the discussion here. A lot going on, I know, but we have a lot to address because there's a lot going on this show. And so a lot of different sort of characters weaving in together here. But Edge and Christian sort of suggesting a partnership between Eddie and themselves, and they suggest that they will be out and have Eddie's back tonight when he does have his match. So Eddie's going to be in action here in just a bit. So that's kind of your setup here. Kurt Angle running through a lot of different things. Have some discussion on Bischoff because everyone's wondering about the same thing, and we'll see what that means for everything moving forward. We see some stuff here. I mean, look, we did do improvisation, so it didn't work out for Eddie here, but that's okay. We still get a decent enough rating, 64 for the segment. All right, then in our women's match that we have to have on the show, because we have to have that note, and like I said, the women's division is going to take a step up. It's just not yet. Lita gets the win over Ivory, so kind of pushing Ivory's losing streak here. Of course, she's lost pretty much I think she's lost every match she's had here in the series thus far, but we see Lita in action for the first time. She does get the win with the moonsault here, and commentary kind of playing up, what does that mean for the next contender for the women's championship? China is our champion. We've seen Trish Stratus rack up wins recently. We've seen Lita now rack up a significant win here over Ivory. So what does that mean for perhaps our next challenger? Maybe we'll find out soon enough. 54 here for this one. And it is William Regal, who we see on the screen here. He is in his office, and Regal says, I have consulted with Mr. McMahon, and we have made a decision on our main event for SmackDown with The Undertaker and Kane and others, thinking that they can just take control and do whatever they want here in the WWF. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen anymore, and we're putting the foot down starting tonight. And that's why Regal says, Kane, you will defend that Intercontinental Championship that you won against Triple H. You will defend it tonight for the very first time, and your opponent will be someone else who thinks that they can do whatever they want. They can go around doing anything they want, besmirching the good name of William Regal. You, Kane, will defend the Intercontinental Championship tonight against Chris Jericho. So, Regal has decided to put Jericho and Kane in a match tonight for the Intercontinental Championship. Something may be up with that idea. 52 here for this one. And then we go backstage, and as Vince McMahon and Steve Austin continuing their talking session here, and it is Austin saying, all right, Vince, the next thing we got to discuss. I got all this gold around my shoulders. It's really hard to carry around 3 championship belts. I got the WWF title. I got 2 WWF Tag Team Championships, but I don't have a partner because Triple H is out injured. Now, what are we going to do about that? No one's going to take these titles away from me. I'll defend them by myself if I have to. And Vince just said, Steve, calm down. We're not going to take the championships away from you. You are still the rightful owner of the WWF Tag Team titles. I've got an idea how we're going to fix this. You need a partner, Steve. And that's when we hear a knock at the door. And Austin's like, who the hell is it? Get away. And Kurt Angle comes in yet again. And Kurt Angle has walked in here. And, we see Vince kind of giving Angle a bit of a look here. And then Austin looks over at Vince, and he realizes that Vince is giving Angle a look. And Austin's like, don't you even think about it. Absolutely not. And Angle's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but are you done yet? I've got to get this match with Rikishi, and I need this match. And Vince just says, Kurt, if it will make you leave to let Steve and I finish our conversation, I will give you your match with Rikishi. Commissioner Regal has his fans full, but I am Vince McMahon. I own the WWF, and I own WCW. And Vince says, I'll give you your match, Kurt. You get your match one-on-one with Rikishi at Judgment Day. So Angle is very pleased at this and just says, thank you, Vince. That's all I needed. I'm going to go slam him into the ground the same way that I did with his 2 friends, Too Cool, Scotty Too Hottie, and Grandmaster Sexay. And Austin says, if I hear the words Too Cool, Grandmaster Sexay, Scotty Too Hottie again, I'm going to get up and stun your ass. And that's when Angle just says, all right, Steve, I'm leaving. Thank you, guys. I'm out of here. So Austin just, again, is getting very perturbed with Kurt Angle. And Austin looks back at Vince and says, I don't want to know if you're thinking what I think you're thinking. And Vince just says, we'll talk about it. So, and that's when Austin says, all right, let's turn our conversation back to The Undertaker and Kane. And so that's how we leave it off for now. 81 for this one. All right, then we get the XFactor here. X-Pac and Just Incredible getting the win over Kai and Tai. Just kind of a match to push forward. XFactor here, we know that they were, the ones in the back beating up the Dudley boys on Raw. And so Albert puts Bubba through a table. XFactor get the win here. And that's kind of, how this plays out with that. So 48 overall here for this one. And speaking of that, well, here they come because it is XFactor getting the win. And here comes two of the members that they tried to destroy on Raw. Bubba was put through a table. We can see Bubba kind of favoring this a little bit after Albert put him through a table, but here comes Spike with him. So we've got the Dudleys, the whole crew's there, and they return, and now we've got a big brawl going on between these 6 men, and that is when, the Dudleys are able to kind of get Albert out of the mix, get Justin Credible out of the mix, and they try to put X-Pac through the table, but it's Albert who does get back up to make the save, and they are able to get away here with the Dudleys kind of having the tables in front of them and sort of, again, signifying that they're going to put these guys through a table at some point. So that's how we leave it off here. The Dudleys making their return to get a little payback, but as you can probably note, the Dudleys having the tables in front of them and trying to get the tables involved could hint at something in the future. 51 for this one. All right, now we get an interview with the coach, who's with the Big Show. And Coach just says, Big Show, once again, you don't have a match here tonight. You're here, but you don't have a match. You haven't wrestled in a week or so now. And you still are not telling anyone about what's going on with Vince McMahon. And he's like, I know Michael Cole tried to get something out of you the last time you talked, but I'm going to try now. Everyone wants to know what's going on, Big Show. And Show just says, Coach, it's a business matter. I don't have anything to say about my current business relationship with Vince McMahon. And he just says that's all there is to it. I can't say anything. And coaches can tell that, Big Show's kind of a little bit down about this maybe. And he says, all right, well, if you're not going to talk about that, how about we talk about Eric Bischoff? Because we saw the interaction you had with Eric Bischoff on Raw. We saw you looking very intently at Mr. Bischoff when he walked in with Vince McMahon. Do you have anything to say about your history with Eric Bischoff? And Show just says, as everyone is aware, we do have a history. I have a history with Eric Bischoff. He gave me an opportunity when I was at WCW, and I really don't want to discuss it beyond that. So Coach is he's getting frustrated. He's like, all right, guys, but back to you. We're not getting anything here out of Big Show right now. And so Show just walks off. And so Coach looks lost here, but Show has nothing to say about this whole favor situation with Vince, what's going on. We still have no idea. 75 for this one. All right, then we get another match. This is not going to be, might be our worst show yet in terms of our matches, but that's okay. We had, it's more of an angle-built show here for sure. So 46 for this one. It's Hardcore Holly getting the win over Steve Blackman. This building off of Hardcore, making his turn on Crash in that tag team match. So just kind of a match to give Hardcore Holly a win here. Nothing else really of note with that. So Hardcore Holly gets the victory and fresh into his newfound heel role as perhaps a singles act after turning on Crash Holly. 46 for this one. All right. Now we're back. backstage. To Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. And Austin just says, all right. Well, listen, Vince. Taker challenged me. And as you know, I'm still recovering a little bit from that choke slam through the announce table. And I just don't know if I need to be accepting that challenge from The Undertaker right now. I don't have my tag team partner around. I got this goofy Kurt Angle walking around everywhere, getting involved in my business, and I just don't know if now's the time to accept that challenge from The Undertaker. And Vince just says, all right, Steve, we've been sitting here talking for an hour now, and damn it, I'm tired of this. Vince says, I'm tired of this, Steve. You are sitting here, Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're the rattlesnake. You know what I need, Steve, from you? I need the old Stone Cold. I need the guy who's not going to take any shit from anybody. And Vince says, I need you, Steve, more than ever right now. You don't have a partner. You're the WWF champion. We don't know what Shane McMahon's trying to do with WCW. We got The Undertaker and Kane trying to take us out. I need you, Steve. I need the old you. I need the guy who would come up to me and give me a stunner out of nowhere. I need the guy who would drive in a beer truck, pour concrete into my car. That's who I need, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you can see Austin's eyes. They're getting bigger and bigger here as Vince is motivating Stone Cold Steve Austin with this motivational speech. And Austin just says, stop it right there, Vince. And Austin's getting up in Vince's face. You can tell Vince is a little bit caught off guard here, like, oh boy, did I just go too far? And Austin just says, you just gave me an idea. You want the old Stone Cold? by God, you're going to get him. So Austin is fired up now, and Vince, as Austin walks off, very pleased with himself because he clearly achieved what he wanted to achieve here by having a motivational speech for Austin. What's he going to do here? We have no idea. 91 for the segment. All right, then it's Eddie Guerrero getting the win over K-Quick, 436 in this one, 58 for the match. Like I said, the matches on the show are just not great, but that's okay. It's a very angle-driven show. We're going to need some of these. When you have Raw, SmackDown, all the way up to a pay-per-view, like, we're going to need some pretty angle-heavy shows. So Eddie gets the win over K-Quick. Probably not much of a surprise here. Eddie's still getting the penalties due to the personal issues and all that, so that's notable, but we just kind of know that's what it's going to be at this point. So, and I want to use Eddie, so we kind of have to use him and just take the hit on some of these. So, gets a 58, but like we said earlier, Edge and Christian agreed to sort of have Eddie's back here in case the Hardy Boys came out, and so we do get that. The Hardy Boys do come out, but they are not alone because, and we can tell here, my goodness. So he did probably make this unscripted. I think probably because Edge wanted it to. I think that's been the usual thing here. So we should have changed some of these to where, and you can tell I didn't even put the description here. I forgot to copy it over into this, but you can tell we kind of used the working the crowd. We could have kind of maybe changed these up a little bit in terms of the aim for each of these superstars here for this one, and we could have probably also done this in the multi-part angle, but for now we're still kind of going with the usual thing. But it gets a 61, but I can't even tell you what it is because it isn't here, right? So we do have the Hardy Boys come out, but Edge and Christian are kind of pointing at them, saying 3-2, right? Like it's Edge, Christian, and Eddie. Eddie's got the European title, and it is the Hardys, of course, who come out here. There's only two of them. But then they have backup because here comes the APA, Farouk and Bradshaw, and you can tell that Edge and Christian, they're getting a little uneasy now that they see these two guys coming out to back them up, and they're, of course, holding up the 4 and the 3 now. So now they have the advantage here in terms of the numbers and all of that. And so Eddie still has the European title. We see, them basically make their way towards the ring. And so the insinuation here is that the Hardys have hired the APA to retrieve that European Championship from Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie hightails it out of there. Edge and Christian do the same. So we kind of have, Farouk, Bradshaw, Jeff, and Matt in the ring trying to retrieve that title, and then it is, the APA giving chase to try to get the championship back. So that's kind of your story here for this one. So 61. All right, now we get Chris Jericho, and it is Michael Cole with Chris Jericho, and I know, like, having Cole in this, like, it's not helping, and it's going to hurt a little bit here, but we do like to sort of have the interviewers. You guys know that's kind of how I like my saves. I don't like just the one person putting them in there and that kind of stuff if it's an actual interview promo. So we have Michael Cole here with Jericho, and Jericho just said, Cole wants to know, Chris, what do you think about this? You're getting a shot at the Intercontinental Championship tonight against Kane. And Jericho says, yeah, Cole, it sounds a lot better than it really is. We all know what this is. Yes, I'm getting an opportunity for the Intercontinental Championship, but we all know it's not going to be that easy. For starters, I got to face Kane, but we all know it's not just going to be me and Kane. And so William Regal is up to something. I know how this works. He's too scared to accept my challenge, and so he's trying to put me in a match against Kane for Kane to potentially take me out so he doesn't have to wrestle me. That's what this is all about, because he knows he can't beat me. And then Cole says, well, Chris, I'd also like to get your thoughts. We heard the coach earlier try to get thoughts from the Big Show on Eric Bischoff, and Jericho just cuts him off and says, all right, you want to know my thoughts on Eric Bischoff? I said I wasn't going to focus on it on Raw because I was more focused on my match with Dean Malenko, but now I don't care because I know what's going to happen tonight. I know someone's going to come out there and try to cost me the Intercontinental Championship, and I know it's probably going to be William Regal. But if you want to know my thoughts on Eric Bischoff, I think Eric Bischoff is a complete hack. He got lucky with an idea he stole from someone in Japan, and that's all there is to Eric Bischoff. He doesn't know how to run a company. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him, and he wouldn't know talent if it hit him in the face because he had Chris Jericho, and Jericho decided to come here to the WWF, and all I've done is win championship after championship, and tonight I'm going to do the same when I win the Intercontinental title from Kane. Jericho very confident here heading into this match with Kane. He knows something's up, but he says he's going to try to take advantage of this opportunity and win the title. So there you go, 61 here for this segment. All right, Now we are going to get into our main event. It is Kane versus Chris Jericho, Intercontinental title on the line. But as we get into the match, we're going to have an angle before, and told you the light bulbs went off earlier with Stone Cold Steve Austin after Vince McMahon said something in particular. Well, and so we start things off here. We also have sort of the announcement before the match that William Regal has barred The Undertaker from ringside. So we forgot to sort of add that in as a separate angle. That's just me forgetting to put it in there in all honesty, and I don't know that we actually would have had space for it anyways. So I did forget to put that in, so that is notable here based on what's about to play out. So Regal announcing that The Undertaker is banned from ringside. So Taker is not out. Kane comes out by himself. Jericho comes out. We're getting ready for this match. Well, as this match is about to get started, what happens? Well, we see someone riding in the back on a forklift. And it is the man that Vince McMahon said earlier rode a beer truck to the ring, poured concrete into his car, and now Steve Austin is riding a forklift through the backstage area. And Austin apparently knows where he's going because he goes right in front of a locker room, and we hear this, big commotion, and we hear banging on the door. And we can tell that there is a voice on the other side of the door that's saying, "Hey, what the hell is going on here?" And it is the voice of The Undertaker. So Steve Austin has decided to put this forklift in front of the locker room door where Undertaker is at because Taker has been barred from ringside. So we're doing some fun with some Attitude Era-esque stuff here. I know there are ways you can poke holes in this theory, but we're going to have some fun here because the Attitude Era, you got to bring out vehicles and all kinds of stuff, right? So Austin has put the forklift in front of The Undertaker's locker room, and so now Austin has taken the key. There's no way to move this forklift, and Austin hops off the forklift, and he makes his way to the ring, and as you can tell, it's where he comes into the ring, and now it is Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle who are taking aim at Kane. Well, there's something else going on as well, because William Regal has come out, and he is taking aim at Chris Jericho. So you've got Austin and Angle kind of, taking out Kane here. They pulled out chairs. Regal is taking it at Kane. This gets an 81 for this one, and as you would expect, the main event does end in a double disqualification here, as it is William Regal running in, attacking Jericho. Angle attacks Kane. Austin comes to help out. So we've got William Regal, basically, again, hitting Chris Jericho. We've got some brass knucks involved here, so he's taking out Jericho. Angle and Austin are taking out Kane. They're destroying Kane with chairs here, so Kane is left out. We know The Undertaker has been blocked in backstage by this forklift that Austin has brought out. 70 for the match. Did not do as well as I would have thought here. Look at Kane's in-ring performance here. 90. 90 for the big red machine here with Kane. I wonder why this thing did not do as well. So we did have, so the odd face heel combination, that is something. We knew we were getting into that in terms of how we were setting this up. Jericho also has low morale. I'm not sure why that is. I'll have to check on that. So we would have gotten a little bit better if not for those things. But again, it's fine. So again, the bigger story, Regal has taken out Jericho with the brass knucks. Angle and Austin have beaten down Kane with chairs. And that is going to lead us with the final sequence here, where it is Stone Cold Steve Austin has left Kane down and out, along with Kurt Angle, and Austin grabs the microphone, gets an 88 for the segment here, and he says, "Undertaker, I accept your challenge for Judgment Day because I'm not dealing with the dead man anymore. You're dealing with the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin." So Austin may be getting a little bit of his confidence back here after that motivational speech from Vince McMahon, and perhaps it's also not a coincidence that Austin feels really good this week, and there's no Eric Bischoff around for this edition of SmackDown. So Austin accepts the challenge from The Undertaker. It is official. We will get The Undertaker versus Steve Austin at Judgment Day for the WWF title. 88 here for this one. So we finish up this edition of the show, 82 overall. 8 popularity region increases, so we'll take that. Like I said, this was a very angle-heavy show. It was really all about Vince and Austin trying to address everything that's happened. What a whirlwind it's been over the past week for these two guys. And so trying to address different things. And of course, they didn't solve all the problems, but it does look like Vince McMahon brought out some of the old Stone Cold here, and that's exactly what Vince thinks he needs heading into this next chapter, perhaps, against The Undertaker and beyond after Judgment Day. So there you go, guys. That was SmackDown. Let's see what we get to after the show. And our financial report, we're going to get $253,000 in overall profit here. We'll take that. Of course, SmackDown doesn't bring in as much money as Raw, but that's okay. We're still bringing in enough, I'd say. Our post-show finances looking pretty okay at this point. Popularity recap, pretty much the same everywhere. Did gain a little bit here in Japan, and yeah, not a lot notable elsewhere. So let's see what we get to elsewhere before we wrap up. All right, so that was SmackDown. Positive show. Again, I thought some good stuff on the developmental side of things. We also had Sunday Night Heat recently. We taped that, of course, on the same night here on Tuesday. 67 overall. Not a lot of note here on Sunday Night Heat. The best things on the show: Christian and Edge promo, Jericho promo. Match-wise, Eddie defeated Billy Gunn in the main event. We also, by the way, Coco Beware asked if he could come in, just to hang out. You get some of those notes now in this TW9, but he wanted to know if he could come in and be backstage. I said, Coco, we're giving you more than that, man. You're going to come in and have a match with William Regal. So they also had great chemistry too, by the way. So that's worth noting. They did have great chemistry in this match. So perhaps we'll bring Coco Beware back for another match with Commissioner Regal at some point. But again, that was Sunday Night Heat. We got retirement here for Larry Zbyszko. Oh man, the 49-year-old headed behind the scenes. Wonder if there's anything he could be doing soon. We'll find out for old Larry Z there. But all right, I'm not going to show you the decisions because those are a couple things that I don't necessarily want you to see just yet. Let's look at our mail. Okay, Adam Copeland has a body type change. Tone to muscular. All right, here we go. The rated R superstar putting on the pounds to get ready for the main event run. I can already tell this guy is putting in the work to become a future WWF champion. I like to see that for sure. Mark Henry, a developmental request. So Mark Henry is ready to come up from OVW. Interesting timing, I must say, Mr. Henry. We'll see what we have planned for Mark Henry, perhaps, here in the future. And then, once again, yes, folks, yet again, Kurt Angle has another opinion. Every single show, Kurt Angle has been running somebody down. Who's he going to talk about this week? Who was on the last show? Malenko, maybe? No, surely Kurt can appreciate Malenko. Steve, you've already run down Steve Blackman. It's not going to be Blackman. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's a member of Kaientai. Who knows? All right, let's see what Kurt has to say. It's XFactor. I was close, man. I was like, it's got to be somebody that we just had on the show doing something, right? Whether it was an angle or a match. And it was Albert. Okay. So Albert sells like crap. Cut him and find someone who knows how to work. Well, Kurt. We did have, if you really think about it, Kurt's not wrong maybe because we had the Dudley boys take everybody out in XFactor. And then Albert was the one who popped up and saved X-Pac from the table, crashing there. So, maybe Angle's onto something, wanting to cut Albert. But so far, Steve Blackman, Albert, and I can't even remember who the other guy was that Kurt Angle wanted out of there. But there you go. Kurt Angle is just continuing to put on an all-time run here so thus far in this series. So there you go, guys. That was SmackDown. Let me know your thoughts on the show. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Again, I really hope you're enjoying this series. This brings back so much nostalgia for me. And again, it is really helping for me to connect kind of the stories together and all these little, kind of hints and teases that I'm adding along the way in each of these shows. When I record these closer together, whereas I used to just kind of record it, I'd record one, and then I would wait until the last second. I'm like, all right, I got to record this one now. Now I'm trying to just record all these in like a similar block. So all the stories can connect better together and all that. And yeah, it's definitely working out better. And I'm loving this time period. Like I had my Spotify playlist up to like 2001 earlier too. I was listening to some songs from 2001. So you guys give me your favorite songs from the year 2001 in the comments too. I think that'd make for a good discussion. So there you go. Again, guys, I appreciate you watching as always. Always appreciate the feedback as well. And on the next episode of our WWF Invasion 2001 save, it is going to be an important episode. I will drop that hint for you. It will be Raw is War for May Week 4.